Back in the studio, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for the news review, and we're joined by political scientist and director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, my former lecturer, by the way. Good morning, sir.
Ben, how are you, my brother?
Always good to have you. And I see you're maintaining the Batakari swag.
Oh, yes, you know it.
Ehiapa.
Because we need to patronize made in Ghana goods. Yes.
It's very important. But I hope you've not been making any noise, Doc.
Noise about?
that was just a little joke. You know, Sikampedide.
I know.
You know, it's Sikampedide. And I know you have your own activities going on, farming activities. So you're not making noise. Else the money will run away from you.
No, I don't have to. I don't have to.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's get into this.
To add to what the president said, in addition to Sikampe Dede, Sikampe Rof.
Sikampe Rof.
Yes. There was a man at Akakpo with that title, Sikampe Rof. Yes.
Reminds me of the lyrics to one of Stoneboy's songs. But I know this morning, definitely, you would like to take a bite out of the president's address to the nation on the state of our economy last Sunday. What are your thoughts after having reflected, digested everything he shared? What do you have to share back with us on the back of that?
Yeah, the president gave a speech, and I want to look at it from the point of view of the balance sheet, the pluses, the minuses, and the way forward. Right. If you look at the pluses, the president came out a raft of measures that will improve the economy. But first of all, he started with admission that there is a problem. There is an economic problem. And for me, that was very refreshing because you need honest leadership. And he demonstrated that yes, there's a problem. I acknowledge that fact. And that the problem is what? Economic. Right. And in itself, it's a solution to the problem because your ability to identify that there is a problem and then you don't deceive yourself into believing that there's nothing wrong, then that becomes a different thing. But on this call, the president did well by admitting that there is a problem. The problem is economic and that he's going to tackle it. Great idea. Then he came out with a whole lot of measures that they are going to put into place to make sure that they fix the problems head on. That was also good. He talked about the fact that he's going to cut expenditure, about the governmental staffers, and a whole lot. Ministers, you're going to cut expenditure on them, and then some physical economic policies. He mentioned them. Great ideas, no doubt about that. I believe that if he is able to walk the talk, we are going to have a relief to some extent. He also rekindled our hope that all is not lost and that many countries are facing, and that is not to say that you want to belittle our experience here. He did emphasize on that, and that he will work hard so that at the end of the day, he will bring back the smiles that we expect on the faces of people. That was also good. He talked about other measures that will also go a long way to improve the system. Great ideas, and I love them. My interest is that he will make sure that he will walk the talk and that all the things he has said, they will come back to support the economic system and make life better for everybody. Having said that, I want to move on to the minuses. Yes, in spite of all these great ideas that the president threw out, one, he did not also talk about the issue of, cutting down the size of government. I didn't hear that. If maybe it was in the speech and I did not see, that's a different thing. But I'm sure I listened with rapt attention, because you want to reduce the expenditure that we incur in maintaining our ministers and whatnot, 30%. If he has reduced the size of government from 8 present state to, say, 19 ministers, that will be very interesting. And it will reduce the bill on maintaining government ministers drastically. That I was disappointed in. The president never talked about that. And then reducing the staff, his office staff. That was another call from certain quarters of the state that we needed to reduce the size of the presidential staffers and all that. I mean, that would have also added something to it. And then he also did not talk about the fact that he wanted to remove Mr. Forata, which has been the main call of a lot of people in this country. We didn't hear that. That, for me, was another missing link. There were a number of them that time will not permit us to look at all that. But all in all, I believe that, yes, he has made this statement, and we want to see that he walk the talk. I also wanted to see a situation that he will also work to strengthen, all right? I think he touched on it briefly about the issue of the economic management team and the rest of them. I want it to flow from cabinet. You know, economic policies or major policies of government are taken by the small body of ministers who support the president in said decision taking. That is cabinet. So I wanted it to start from cabinet. I want cabinet, even though I know how cabinet has been doing their bit. But if you look at the situation we find ourselves, it tells us that there's something wrong, basically wrong with the economy that we need to fix. And I believe that it must start from the cabinet, that the cabinet must put their foot down, strengthen their effort, inject more ideas into the system, and then it will trickle down to the economic management team, which has overall responsibility of making sure that we have a very sound economy that will be able to deliver what we expect from them. And then it will follow down to the finance minister, who is an officer responsible for maintenance, implementation of such policies and all that. Then we know that we are talking. I want to see that as we go forward, so that we have all the three officers, that's the cabinet, that's the economic management team, that's the Ministry of Finance, also performing extremely well. In order to summarize all these things, I want to look at it from this perspective that, yes, it is the responsibility of government to fix the economy. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of responsibility is on the shoulders of government in this regard. But we also, as a society, we owe it a duty to ourselves and our state that the little that we need to contribute to our society, we need to do that. And first, we need to work very hard in this time to support the effort of government to make sure that the government is able to deliver on its promise. We need to do that. And that means that we need to get our basics right, do the things that require of us, and do them well. In addition to this, we need to make sure that we eschew certain practices that undermine the fortunes of the state, all right, so that the state will be able to stand on its feet and then support us. That is also a responsibility on our part. The president did talk about the issue of where people create fear and panic and all that, and prices go up, and that is true, or that we need to be measured in some of the things that we say and do about our own system, and then don't create that panic. It is unnecessary. And two, we need to also make sure that we don't take due advantage of the system, which the president touched on. Now, what's the point of, because of the economic situation, you want to have profit about 10-fold, 11-fold, and all that? It's unnecessary. It doesn't help anybody. Once we do that, I know that the president and then his team, they owe it a duty to make sure that these things work. They have a lot of responsibility on their hands. Once they also discharge theirs very well, home and dry, I have every reason to believe that we'll be able to surmount the current challenge that we have on our hands. That is my take for this morning.
Thank you so much, Doc, for sharing those thoughts with us. And of course, I've noted that on social media, for example, people have varying opinions on the address of Mr. President. Some say it was bland, others say it was right on point. But I think in the end, all we want to see is change to our economy. Because if you consider the fact that we're purchasing diesel now at 23 Ghana cedis and petrol at 18 Ghana cedis, then you realize this is not a good place to be. Not a good place.
No.
It's almost as though some people were working to fill their car tanks. I mean, and there's nothing left to feed on, you know? So
yesterday I traveled to, Dodowa. From Adenta to my house. I bought fuel of 200 Ghana. When I came back, I wanted to go to a place closer, and I bought 300. Can you imagine that?
Just yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. And this is a public officer, spending so much. But all that we have said, and which you have added, that we want the government to fix the problem. All right, that's all.
The Daily Graphic this morning, errant internal auditors risk 5 years in jail. That's according to the Director General. New voter register, NDC petitions Parliament over Ghana card. That story is on page 20. No private emails for official use. Directive for MMDAs and SOEs effective January next year. There's also Kwame Asiedu Baswa, new chancellor for Kumasi province. Let's get into some of those stories. Let's start with the one on page 20 of the paper. Let's quickly get there. Here we are. So NDC petitions Parliament over Ghana card in line with the new voters register. And the NDC has initiated moves in Parliament to halt the move by the Electoral Commission to use the National Identification Card, aka the Ghana card, as the only, that's the point, only evidence of citizenship for the compilation of a new register for the 2024 general elections. A petition seeking to halt the laying of a draft constitutional instrument, that is a CI, titled Public Elections, Registration of Voters Regulations 2021, was captured on the order paper for yesterday, but put on hold at the instance of the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. Why? He will present the petition in Parliament next week, and he explained that the rescheduling was to allow for an engagement with the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, as well as the leadership of Parliament. Expected to regulate continuous voter registration, the draft CI has in it a proposal to make the Ghana card the sole source document of identification for prospective voters. Just to run. According to the petition, which was cited by the Daily Graphic, the NDC did not want the proposed CI to be laid until the backlog of Ghana cards, which the National Identification Authority has admitted to, had been cleared. What's your take on this? So the NDC is saying, until you clear the backlog, until you can guarantee that everyone who is qualified to register to vote in the continuous registration has a Ghana card, whether they take advantage of it or not, don't go ahead with the CI. Your take?
I think they make sound arguments, and that because election should be universal, we want to make sure that we don't disenfranchise people, all right? And that is the point they are coming from. The Speaker also, I listened to him, said that he will not allow it to pass simply because they have not briefed him, and he want to know the current circumstances and all that. I think that is in line with parliamentary practice, and then in line with the procedures in Parliament. I believe that when who else prevail in this matter, we will arrive at something meaningful. Because what the NDC is saying, I have no doubt in my mind that it is fair and proper for us to have all the backlog cleared in the procurement of the Ghana card, so that at the end of the day, if that is what we want to use, everybody will be in a position to possess one of the cards and use it for the purpose for which the person got the card. So I think I am with them, but I always urge that all these things that we do, I know that we want to support the state, but we want to encourage dialogue, and we want people to remember that election is nothing but the pivot around which all democratic processes revolve. So we want us to jealously guard the process and then make sure that whatever we decide on will stand the test of time.
Let's do the story on page 16. Let's track back to that page. Errant internal auditors risk 5 years in jail. That's according to the Director General. And Dr. Eric Odrosai, who is the Director General, has warned that any internal auditor who misconducts himself or herself could be imprisoned for 5 years if found guilty by a court. And such a conviction, he said, could also come with an additional fine. He therefore advised internal auditors to strictly go by the standard of international practice frameworks, that is the IPFs, as prescribed and adopted by the International Audit Agency. I found this interesting, but let me just wrap with this, Doc. Dr. Osai gave the warning when he addressed the two-day risk-based internal auditing training for public sector internal auditors in Koforidua, the Eastern Regional Capital, last Monday. We've heard stories of internal auditors from time to time conniving with different institutions, even public institutions, and all of that to come out with audits that favor those institutions, by which when you get into properly, you would realize they are nothing to write home about. Is this what we need, these punitive measures? 5 years, and even after that, I think there's an additional fine tied to it. Is this what we need to sanitize that space?
I support that. I am in support of that decision. Why am I saying that? Democracy is run by rules and regulations. Without them, we go back to the state of nature, which you and I don't want to be there. Life is chaos, chaotic life there. And, you know, these people who take up these practices are professionals, trained very well with a lot of resources and over time. So we believe that all the norms governing their work, they have internalized them, and they want to put them into practice. After all, what is the use of law? Or what is the essence of a law? Is to regulate the conduct of people and make life better for all of us. In other words, law is nothing but a useful instrument to regulate the conduct of people and make life better. So what is the point of some, undermining the very principles that they've been trained with? They undermine the very structures that are in place to make sure that their work brings the best in terms of fruits. Then it's pointless. So if there is a body or there is a head who says that let us go on this route and make sure that we get the best from the professionals to safeguard revenue from public and other institutions, for me, is nothing but a good call, and I support it head on. My little caution is that it shouldn't be a 9-day wonder. We need to carry it through and then sustain the effort so that at the end of the day, whoever has an idea of getting closer to this to enrich him or herself with this practice will think twice, because now all eyes are working. I support, because I'm a student of institutions. All these things are institutions. When we say institutions in political science, we are not talking about edifices and all that. That are part, but we are talking about the rules, regulations, procedures, norms, and all that. Once they go down, I tell you, there is no state. You look around, if institutions, by the definition I'm giving you, they go down, there is no state. So I, as a statist, as a scholar studying things around the state, that is the basis of political science, that I am interested that institutions will be held up high at all times without fear or favor. Implement the rules rigidly without fear or favor, and then make sure that you sustain the effort. That is the way to go.
Let's quickly do this one. It's a story that excites me, and it's the banner headline, if you like, on the Daily Graphic. No private emails for official use. Directive for MMDA's SOEs, effective January. So what's the latest? From January next year, all workers in the public sector and state institutions will connect to a smart workplace common platform for all official communications. The key public infrastructure being operated by the National Information Technology Agency, that is NITA, is a security solution that will help agencies in the public sector encrypt government data in storage or transit for protection. Consequently, the government has directed that after the connection, the use of private or personal emails for official business in all public sector agencies should cease. Now, the sector minister, the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, has been speaking to this matter. I've had to take issue with her on the SIM card re-registration and a number of things that I feel she's goofed on. But on this one, I fully am in support. I don't know whether you recall the Hillary Clinton mess, the email saga from back then.
Yes,
I think
I do.
This will help forestall all of such situations. My only fear is that this could also help in terms of hiding certain things that the public would want to know, because if it goes through this encrypted system, though it is very good, at some point it could be used to hide things from the media, from people who would want to know when nefarious activities are being conducted. That's my only concern. But apart from that, I think this is wonderful. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think I'm also in the same position. I share in this view that we need to protect the secrecy of government and then make sure that the government will be able to thrive at all times. Yes. So it's a good step, and we have experience on our hand to guide us towards the future. That is Mrs. Clinton issue, the Russian connection and whatnot. All right. We are careful about that, and the state want to take charge of any communication that emanates from its quarters. I think it is right in the direction. That will not take away the fact that there will be people within the system who want to serve as whistleblowers for a good reason. Those aspects are also there. But for me, let us make sure that this one works and works well. And that journalists, by their training, by everything, even if there are things that they want to hide, public officers want to hide. I know by our training as journalists, we have a way of unearthing all those things and bring it toward public light for discussion and redress and whatnot. So I am not afraid. I am in support of this. We all have to support the minister, the ministry, and every ministry to be able to carry this thing to its logical conclusion.
Before I do the back page, on page 21, there's a beautiful image there of Travis Green. And of course, it's all about the Adom Praise Festival. If you've not caught on yet, it's going down Friday, the 4th of November, 2022 at the Perez Dome in Jowulu. It's at 6 p.m. It's 100 CDs single, 150 CDs double. And all your favorite artists are going to be there, from Perez Music, Travis Green himself, all the faces that you love to see when it comes to the gospel landscape. So grab your tickets. Yeribahim. You know what time it is. Let's do the back page now. And GFA receives $2.5 million of World Cup money, $8 million more to follow. They're giving each participating team of the 32 countries, or the national teams, $10.5 million. So we're getting the initial tranche of $2.5 million, and we'll get the addition, the top-up of $8 million for merely participating. Of course, the entire kitty is $440 million, depending on how far you go in the tournament. All right, so let's get into other stories. I know you follow football. We can only wish our Black Stars the very best as they get down. It's 18 days more to the World Cup. But the Ghanaian Times newspaper, I want your quick reflections on these two stories. Apart from these ones, there is man jailed 21 years for defiling 11-year-old daughter. And there's also take action to end galamsey permanently. Church leaders urge president. I'm on this WhatsApp platform where people are simply, very prominent people, are up in arms, at their wits' end, looking at what galamsey is doing to our country. There's also 4 dead, 19 injured in road crash on Mankesim, Apam Road. And the carnage continues on our roads. And finally, I definitely want you to take a look at this. Ghana's HIV infections hit 21,000 annually in last 5 years. Let me just take a brief sneak peek at that story, Doc, and then you can react to these stories as we wrap with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Page 15, interestingly, is refusing to come up, but there it is. So Ghana's HIV infections hit 21,000 annually. The Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Dr. Treme Echiahene, says the commission was revamping its partnerships and resource mobilization initiatives to ensure sufficient and predictable resources for national response. He said the efforts of strengthening coordination were in recognition of the sad reality that Ghanaians had become overly complacent insofar as HIV was concerned. He said this in Accra yesterday at the twin launch of the Commission's 20th anniversary celebration and the 2022 World AIDS Day commemoration to be marked on December 1st. 2 questions. Have we become that complacent when it comes to HIV? And what happened to all the advocacy, Doc? The adverts, observe the ABC rule, abstinence, be faithful, condom use, and it was all over. I remember growing up, it was all over the place. Now we've gone to sleep. What's your take?
Yeah, I think what you are saying is the exact situation on the ground, that in fact, in terms of advertisement, it has come down. in the year 2000, thereabout, you open your radio or TV set and it's full of adverts on HIV, AIDS, and all that. I think at a point in time, we slowed down, and then matters are getting, worse by the day. So I'm happy that those who are in charge are taking up the mantle seriously, giving out, churning out messages that will really support the effort. All that they need is that everybody must be part and parcel of the process, and then we must get continuous education so that we do the needful by observing the rules, the ABC adverts, and whatnot. Once we are able to do that, we'll be able to address the problem head on. It must be a source of worry to everybody, because once you have a population which is unhealthy, it's going to affect productivity. And at this point in our lives, we need higher productivity more than ever to support the things that we do here in order to keep ourselves afloat on the periphery of water. I will move on to the issue of Galamsey, which we have said time and again that we don't need to pay lip service to this, because it's one of the major threats of this country. Why am I saying that? We are not only destroying the ecosystem, but we are destroying what? Water bodies. We are destroying agricultural production. We are destroying our very existence on the surface of the earth. All right. And then we are likely to by that action, create insecurity for ourselves. Neighboring countries, a time will come, if we don't take care, they will take us on, because we pollute waters and they get to their place and it causes a whole lot of damage or havoc and all that. And that undermines peaceful international relations that should exist between countries and all that. Our neighbors will soon complain about these things. As a student of international relations, I am very much alive with this. Not only that we are likely to face water shortage for home consumption, for agricultural consumption, and for whatnots. We are destroying everything. Look at the threat from European Union and other countries that also purchase our cocoa. They are now worried about cyanide getting into cocoa beans and whatnot. If you look further, you will see that a time will come, people will not be interested in getting fish from such water bodies and all that. We don't want to get there. We don't want to get there. The cost of destroying the environment today, the benefit that we get, all right, doesn't get anywhere near the cost that is associated in all these things. So we should not pretend. We want our MMDCs to act very firmly. We want the security people that government push them there to go and enforce law, to go and do simply that. All right. We have had stories where people go and then instead of policing the place, they do something untoward. We want them to realize that they are part and parcel of this problem. And our inability to address them head on, one day they will pay dearly for us, for that. We want to be. And then those who own the land, I'm talking about chiefs and all that. Recently we had Asante admonition for all these things. We want to support the king and support every meaningful Ghanaian who want to help us to fight this thing head on. And all of us must be vigilant and then support the call to fight this canker from our society. It is not a good thing. Let us remember that, money is not everything, but that even if you want to acquire it, it must be done within the framework of the law. That is why there are laws. Look at countries where mining, take place and all that, and they organize it in such a way that nobody is affected. Why can't we emulate same? And that we want to have money today and destroy the very society that we want to enjoy money in here. This is incongruous. This is a misnomer, and nobody wants this. They have to think twice that we have no country except Ghana. Then when they destroy it, they will go wherever they go, they will come back here. Even if they don't come alive, we'll come and bury their body here. So they should think that this is the only place that we have on earth.
Maybe we should have a new saying, apart from Sikam Pedide, maybe we should also have Sikam Pegalamsi. But we never know.
When we get money, we have to apply them prudently.
Let's wrap. Doc, we have just about 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I want us to wrap with quite a number of stories. Pick and choose. I'll hit you with about 3 newspapers or 4 of them, but I'll just pick scanty headlines. I'll explain some of them. So, Daily Guide, court threatens to free Aisha Huang accomplices. The story is on page 6. You can check out details. But Akufo-Addo testifies against 4. I'm talking about Edward Akufo-Addo, the president's brother, who allegedly, according to Bobi Ansa, per the story, was in custody of the president's, the Falcon, the presidential jet, while the president was hiring other aircraft, according to the story. And that was the allegation made on Class FM, the Class Media Group, by one journalist, Bobi Ansa. And for this reason, he is to testify against him together with some others in court. So he's taken up the matter in court. Those stories in the Daily Guide. But I want you to focus more on the next stories I'm going to be reading. The Finder, vote of censure, let Oforiatta be heard. That's according to Deputy Majority Leader Afenyo Markin. And of course, he has said that while the minority is pushing for that vote of censure against the finance minister, we should also give him a say, like the lawyers will always say, audi alteram partem. There's also imports of 20 items valued at $10 billion annually. Tinned tomatoes, $1 billion. Rice, $800 million. Flour, $600 million. Poultry and meat, $400 million. Toilet roll and tissue, $100 million. And all that factors into the $10 billion that we lose annually. Occupy Ghana is giving me my next story. It's from the New Crusading Guide, and they say, show you are not all talk and no action, Mr. President. And that's Occupy Ghana's charge to President Akufo-Addo. I want your reflections on these stories. So Occupy Ghana to the president. Then there's vote of censure, let Oforiatta be heard. That's according to Afenyo Markin, Deputy Majority Leader. And then we can talk about the imports of those 20 items. Over to you, Doc.
I'll start with vote of censure. All right. It is a process that when you trigger in Parliament, you are able to remove a minister who, in your view, is a non-performing minister from office if the head of state, who is an appointing authority, refuses to do so. Parliament has that power to do that. And there's an important provision that looks at these things. When you look at the matter that we have on our hands now, the minority want to trigger this. And there is a call also for concern from the Deputy Majority Leader, Mr. Markin. Yes, I have no doubts in my mind that you can trigger such a process without giving a hearing to the very person that you are accusing of having done something wrong. And that is not in any law, all right? That the accused must be heard before you make a decision. So I think that that statement, we don't want to, belittle it, but I know that at the end of the day, if that is the decision that minority want to go with by, triggering the censor motion process, they will definitely give him a hearing. All that we have to do is that we have to wait for that time and see whether the needful is done. If not, as parliamentarians and experienced as they are likely to take a decision that will reverse the process and then give Mr. Oforiatta a hearing. Why is the vote of censure so important in this matter? It is important for a good reason. The reason is that when everybody is saying that remove the minister and the appointing authority is adamant, then you have cause to reason that a new route ought to be taken if that is the goal that they want to achieve. So these things are designed and made part and parcel of the parliamentary architecture so that we don't arm the appointing authority on unlimited power. There is always checks and balances within the political system. So this is one way by which you can check the excessive executive power of the state.
Right.
Sometimes, and then you'll be able to brighten the corner you find yourself. The issue about we importing certain commodities, including tin tomatoes. What is more interesting is toilet roll and the rest of them. It tells us that we as a people, we are not serious. I want to put it bluntly. And that includes your good self, myself, and everybody. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Toilet roll. What do we use to produce toilet roll? Is it not wood? Don't we have it in abundance here? What are we doing to ourselves here? Then we always want to look for hard currency to import this thing. That doesn't help anybody. And if you recall my earlier statement, I said that much as the duty rests on the shoulder, the tax rests on the shoulders of government, we as a people also have a contribution that we need to make. We want to, from today, people should know that it is not important to import what tiro, tin tomatoes, and all that. We import even tomatoes from what? Burkina Faso, a desert land, and we have arable lands all over. I think that we should be able to think about these things and then make sure that we produce what we need and then patronize what we produce. Simple.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. I'll leave you with just this message. I have to run. Greetings to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He taught me humanities in Gimpa. Such a great scholar, very down-to-earth and intelligent. That's from Alex Odro, who's been watching us. Thank you, Doc. And I look forward to your thoughts next Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Have a great day and wish Ghana well. We wish Ghana well. Yes.
We definitely do. We'll be telling you a lot more about what to expect in Qatar as the Youth and Sports Minister, Mustafa Yusuf, has been tight-lipped on Ghana's budget for the biggest football competition in the world. More in sports.